And 8 years after 9/11, the federal government has declared the entire month of September National Preparedness Month. And arguably, no mayor deals with the terror threat as much as New York's Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Mayor Bloomberg joins us now from the site of today's remembrance at Ground Zero. And we should point out, too, Mayor, that this is the first year that people can actually walk all the way out there on the Memorial Plaza. So some progress here after so many years. Let me ask you, if I could, to reflect on what Jason Carroll just told us in that piece. Arguments, some pointed and accusatory, as to whether or not America is safer now than we were in the years pre-9/11. What do you think?
Well, New York City is certainly safer. We have 1,000 police officers dedicated to intelligence and counterterrorism. We've added a lot of technology. We've trained our people. And you heard from Ray Kelly a little while ago. I think we're doing everything we can with our people and our technology to keep this city safe, and it's safer than it's ever been. What we really have to focus on is two things. One, around the world, it's a dangerous world. We have young men and women fighting and sadly dying to protect us. And two, on the streets of this country, we have our police officers fighting and dying too as they try to get guns out of the hands of criminals. And unless we do something about the vast number of guns, you're not going to get the murder rate down much lower than it is today. That's the first and most pressing security issue. Al-Qaeda, that's certainly something that's serious, and we're certainly focusing on that. But I think it's easy to change your focus to that rather than worrying about the number of people getting killed every single day. We have a Virginia Tech virtually every day in this country, and nobody focuses on that.
Yeah, well, sadly, we do have one of those almost, it seems with stunning regularity. A recent study by the Stratfor Group suggests that soft targets are going to become increasingly more common. This is something that we have seen overseas.
You'll have to speak a little louder. We can't hear you. We have a real wind problem here.
I know the weather there is just terrible. Let me preface the question again, Mr. Mayor.
There we go. Go ahead.
I was saying that a recent study by the Stratfor Group suggests that terrorists are going to start going more and more after soft targets. We've seen a lot of that overseas. Is it inevitable that it will come here? And do you worry about smaller, more targeted attacks against these so-called soft targets, or the grand terror attack as we saw 8 years ago?
Well, I don't know that anything's inevitable. What we have to do is keep our focus. We have to invest our money in a good police department and a good army and technology and intelligence operations, and stop sitting around and trying to strategize, but actually do something. That it's easy to have a bunch of talking heads saying we have a threat here and a threat there, but I come back to you've got to really go out, see where the threats are, and do something about it. And the threats are on the streets of this city. Those are the soft targets that most people have to worry about. Leave it to the professionals to worry about the Al-Qaedas and the terrorist organizations. And at least in New York City, I can't guarantee that we're always going to be safe, but I think we're doing everything we possibly can. And the people of New York City feel safe. We have a population that's growing. Here downtown, we have double the number of people living downtown than we did 8 years ago. And if you remember, after 9/11, everybody said nobody would live in this city. It would be an armed camp. Companies were going to move out. That's not what America's about. America's about a spirit and a can-do attitude and a willingness to stand up to those that want to take away our freedoms.
Mr. Mayor, the construction of the September 11th Museum and Memorial is underway. As we said, people will actually be able to walk out there on the constructed plaza this year, as opposed to actually being in the depth of the pit. It's going to include hundreds of hours of graphic video of what happened, and it's also going to take a look at the attacks from the hijackers' perspective. One of the displays will have transcriptions of statements that were made by the hijackers on their suicide tapes. The museum's president, Joe Daniels, says people need to see that. Do you agree?
Well, you have to tell the story. I don't know why you would. This is America. We want to know what goes on, and we have to be able to make our own decisions. That is exactly what the terrorists were trying to take away from us. The kind of censorship that you're implying, that we shouldn't look at everything. I think the terrorists were despicable people that tried to take away our freedoms to practice our religion and say what we want to say. But to say that we're not going to listen to what they said and use them as an example of what's bad, just to me is ridiculous. This is the freedom to investigate, and to show all sides is exactly what we should be doing.
And Mr. Mayor, one more question, if I could, before you blow away there in the wind. I'm sorry. Is the museum and memorial going to meet the completion date of September 11th, 2011? And how important is it from a psychological perspective to hit that completion date?
Well, 10 years from now, we're going to look back, see this site complete, and nobody's going to remember all of the angst and the political process that you have to go through to get agreements and to solve lots of complicated problems. The most important things when we're building here is, number one, do it safely. I do not want to lose one life. No building is worth losing a life. I don't care how long it takes. Number two, I want to make sure that people look back and say we built the right thing and we built it well so that it lasts. That's more important than any schedule. And third, way down the list, it'd be nice if we get things done quickly and at low cost, but nobody remembers all of the problems it took to build Central Park, but New York without Central Park wouldn't be New York. Nobody remembers how long it took to get everybody together to build the Empire State Building, but it's a symbol of New York. We have to do things safely and do things right. I do think for the 9/11 memorial, you'll be able to walk out on the plaza, see the trees, look at the waterfalls going down, read the names, think about what happened here. Bring your kids and try to explain to them why people were trying to take away our freedoms and why America is stronger than that we didn't cave, that we are willing to investigate and have freedom of speech and have freedom of religion, the very things the terrorists were afraid of. And I think that part will be done by 9/11/11.
All right. Mayor Michael Bloomberg for us this morning from Ground Zero. Mayor, thanks very much for being with us and braving the terrible weather down there. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.